The combined fleet moved toward the Kethmori home system like an unstoppable wave. The enemy was ready for them. Ancient weapons that had slept for thousands of years came to life, filling space with deadly energy beams, but the Alliance fleet had learned from 6 months of fighting. Human ships used their kinetic weapons to punch through enemy shields. The Vorthok vessels, built like flying fortresses, absorbed enemy fire while their warriors prepared for boarding actions. The Zanari ships used their advanced computers to jam enemy communications and confuse their targeting systems. The battle was larger and more violent than anything Jake had ever seen. Hundreds of ships on both sides exchanged fire across millions of kilometers of space. Explosions lit up the darkness like deadly fireworks. Admiral Amy reported, "We have broken through their outer defenses. But the Starkiller station is protected by an energy field that our weapons cannot penetrate." Jake studied the massive space station on his screen. It was shaped like a giant ring with a hollow center. Strange lights pulsed along its surface. Jake could see energy building up for the weapon that would destroy his homeworld. Dr. Ben was working frantically at his science station. "Jake, I think I understand how their energy field works. It draws power from their entire fleet. If we can destroy enough of their ships, the field will fail." "How many ships?" Jake asked. "At least half of their remaining fleet," Ben replied. "Maybe more." Jake realized what that meant. To save Earth, they would have to destroy over 1,000 enemy vessels. Many Alliance ships would be lost in the process. Major Wright suddenly looked up from his intelligence station. "Admiral, I am detecting movement inside the Starkiller station. They're beginning the firing sequence." Jake made the hardest decision of his life. "All ships, listen carefully. We are going to ram the Starkiller station. Every ship that can still move will attack at the same time. We either stop them here, or Earth dies." War Leader Groth's voice boomed over the communication system. "Honor to the warriors of Earth. Today we die together as brothers." Speakavelta's response was calmer, but just as determined. "The Zanari stand with humanity. May our sacrifice protect all life in the galaxy." Jake opened a channel to all human ships. "This is Admiral Miller to all Earth vessels. Families are counting on us. Our children's future depends on what we do in the next few minutes. Make every shot count." The Alliance fleet turned toward the Starkiller station and accelerated to maximum speed. Enemy ships tried to intercept them, but the Alliance vessels fought their way through with desperate courage. The used Retribution led the charge, directly toward the station's energy collector. Jake could see the massive structure growing larger on the screen. Its surface was covered with weapons that were all firing at his ship. "Hull breach on Deck 5, Ryan Davis reported from the engine room. "Emergency force fields are holding, but we are taking heavy damage." Amy was monitoring the Starkiller's charging sequence. "Admiral, the weapon will fire in 3 minutes. We are running out of time." Jake watched as Alliance ships around him were destroyed by enemy fire. The EU's Thunder exploded in a ball of flame. The Vorthok battleship Glorious Death rammed a Kethmori. Destroyer Butt was torn apart by the station's defenses, but they were getting closer. Jake could see details on the Starkiller's surface now. Strange symbols covered its hull, and mechanical arms were moving the weapon into position to fire at Earth. 2 minutes to firing, Amy announced. More ships died around them. The Zanari cruiser Wisdom's Light sacrificed itself to destroy a group of enemy fighters. Half of Jake's fleet was gone, but they were almost at the station. Admiral Dr. Ben shouted over the noise of alarms. "The station's energy field is weakening. We have destroyed enough enemy ships." Jake saw their chance. "All remaining ships, concentrate fire on the energy collector. If we can destroy it, the Starkiller cannot fire." Every surviving Alliance vessel turned their weapons on the same target. Railgun rounds, missiles, and energy beams all hit the collector at the same time. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the collector exploded. The blast was so bright that everyone on the bridge had to look away. When Jake could see again, a huge section of the Starkiller station was gone. Emergency lights flashed all across its surface. "The Starkiller is disabled," Amy reported with excitement in her voice. They cannot fire the weapon. But Jake knew the battle was not over yet. All ships board the station. We need to destroy it completely so they can never rebuild it. The UES Retribution docked with the damaged station, along with dozens of other Alliance ships. Marines from all three races fought their way through the station's corridors toward the control center. Jake led a boarding party. Deep into the station's heart, they fought past automated defenses and desperate Kethmori guards. The ancient aliens were tough fighters. They could not stop the combined fury of humans, Vorthok and Zanari, working together. Finally, Jake and his team reached the main control room. At the center stood the tallest Kethmori Jake had ever seen. Its metal armor was covered with ancient symbols, and its red eyes burned with hatred. "I am High Lord Malachar, last ruler of the Kethmori Empire," the alien spoke. "You may destroy this station, but others will come. The galaxy belongs to us." Jake stepped forward, his weapon ready. "The galaxy belongs to everyone who lives in it peacefully. Your time is over." The Kethmori leader drew a weapon that looked like liquid metal. "Then let us end this as warriors." The fight was brief but violent. High Lord Malachar was strong and fast, but Jake had learned to fight from the best warriors of 3 different races. When it was over, the last Kethmori ruler lay dead on the floor of his own control room. Dr. Ben worked quickly at the station's computers. "Jake, I am setting the Starkiller to self-destruct. We have 10 minutes to get everyone off the station." The evacuation was chaotic, but successful. Alliance ships pulled away from the doomed station just as it began to tear itself apart. The explosion was visible from the edge of the star system, a bright flash that marked the end of the Kethmori Empire. 3 weeks later, Jake stood in the same meeting room at Kepler Station where the peace talks had begun. But this time, representatives from dozens of races were present. The victory over the Kethmori had united the galaxy in a way that nothing else could. "The war is over," Jake announced to the assembled delegates. "The Kethmori threat has been eliminated. But we must make sure that nothing like this ever happens." Again, War Leader Groth stood up, his forearms crossed over his chest in a gesture of respect. "The Vorthok Empire pledges to support the new Galactic Defense Alliance. Never again will an ancient evil threaten the young races." Speaker Veltar nodded in agreement. "The Zanari Collective will share our technology freely to help build the defenses we need. Knowledge must be used to protect life, not destroy it." Jake looked around the room at all the different species working together. Earth will establish defense stations throughout the galaxy. Any world that is attacked will receive immediate help from the Alliance fleet. As the meeting continued, Amy walked over to Jake with a message tablet. "Admiral, this just came from Earth Command. They want to know if you were ready to come home." Jake thought about it for a moment. Earth was his home, and he missed it. He had a new responsibility now. The galaxy needed protectors, and Earth had proven it could provide them. "Send a message back," Jake told Amy. "Tell them that Earth's work is not finished. We started as peacekeepers, and we will end as guardians. Any species that attacks innocent worlds will learn that Earth answers with fire." Looked out the station window at the stars. Somewhere out there, new threats might be growing, but now the galaxy was ready for them. The alliance that had been forged in war would keep the peace for generations to come. The age of the Kethmori was over. The age of galactic unity had begun, and Earth would stand guard over it all, ready to defend peace with the fire that burned in human hearts. "Not as fast as our old ships with energy drives," Ryan admitted, "but fast enough, and much more reliable in combat." Dr. Ben had been studying reports from other battles with the Kethmori. "Jake, I am learning more about their weaknesses. They are very old and very proud. They do not adapt their tactics quickly when something new happens." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "They have been planning this invasion for 3,000 years, Ben explained. "Their strategies are based on fighting the galaxy as it was long ago. They do not expect us to change our technology and tactics so quickly." Lieutenant Wright had more intelligence to share. "Captain, our spies have discovered that the Kethmori are not as united as they want us to believe. They have 3 different fleets, and the commanders do not always agree with each other." This gave Jake an idea. If we can defeat one of their fleets decisively, it might cause problems between their commanders. They might start fighting each other instead of working together. Admiral Johnson contacted the ship a few days later with new orders. Jake, we have located a major Kethmori fleet near the Arcturus system. They are preparing to attack the industrial worlds there. We want you to lead a strike force to stop them.
Oh.
Jake studied the mission data. The Kethmori fleet consisted of 12 large warships and over 30 smaller vessels. Earth's strike force would have only 8 ships, but they were all new Hammer class. Battleships designed specifically to fight the ancient enemy. How many people live in the Arcturus system? Jake asked. Over 2 billion, Admiral Johnson replied. If the Kethmori capture those worlds, they will have enough industrial capacity to build an invasion fleet capable of attacking Earth directly. Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. 2 billion lives depended on his ability to win this battle. The strike force left Earth orbit 2 days later. Besides the Retribution, the fleet included 7 other Hammer-class ships, commanded by some of Earth's best officers. Commander Rick Stone led the EU's vengeance. He was Lisa Stone's younger brother. He wanted revenge for his sister's death. Captain Sandra Lee commanded the UES Thunder, the most heavily armed ship in the fleet. Captain Bob Hayes led the UES Lightning, which was built for speed and hit-and-run attacks. Each ship was designed for a specific role in the coming battle. The trip to Arcturus took 6 days. During the journey, Jake met with all the other captains to plan their attack strategy. The Kethmori will expect us to use the same tactics as before, Jake explained. Long-range energy weapons and defensive formations. We are going to do something completely different. Commander Stone looked eager for the fight. What do you have in mind, Captain? Jake pointed to a map of the Arcturus system. We are going to attack them at close range using ramming tactics and boarding parties. Our ships are built to survive physical impacts. Ours are not. Captain Lee looked worried. That is very dangerous. Could lose half our ships. Maybe, Jake agreed. But if we fight them the way they expect, we will definitely lose all our ships. This is our only chance to surprise them. Dr. Ben had been studying the enemy fleet composition. Jake, their flagship is much larger than the others. If we can destroy or capture it, the rest of their fleet might retreat, Lieutenant Wright added. More intelligence. The flagship is commanded by a Kethmori leader called War Master Vextor. According to our data, he is very old and very proud. He will not retreat easily. Jake made his final decision. We will focus our attack on the flagship. All ships will coordinate to bring it down, no matter what the cost. When they arrived at the Arcturus system, Jake could see the Kethmori fleet waiting near the largest planet. The enemy ships were spread out in a defensive formation with the massive flagship in the center. All ships, this is Captain Miller, Jake announced over the communication system. Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves, we are fighting for every human, Vorthok, and Zanari in the galaxy. Today, we show the galaxy that Earth answers attacks on peace with fire. The Hammer-class ships accelerated toward the enemy fleet at maximum speed. Instead of stopping at long range to exchange fire, they kept getting closer and closer. The Kethmori seemed confused by this tactic. Their energy-draining weapons reached out to touch the human ships, but the simple mechanical systems were not. Affected, their powerful beam weapons fired again and again, but the thick armor plating absorbed most of the damage. All ships concentrate fire on the flagship, Jake ordered. 8 Earth ships firing together created a storm of railgun rounds and missiles that overwhelmed the enemy flagship's defenses. Holes appeared in its hull and several of its weapons stopped working, but the other Kethmori ships were moving to defend their leader. Jake realized they had only a few minutes before the enemy fleet would surround them. Rick, take your ship and ram their flagship, Jake ordered. The rest of us will cover you. Commander Stone's voice came back immediately. Understood, Captain? It has been an honor serving with you. The U.S. Vengeance turned toward the massive enemy flagship and accelerated to ramming speed. The Kethmori tried to stop it with everything they had, but the Earth ship's armor held. At the last second, Commander Stone's ship fired all its missiles at point-blank range, then crashed directly into the flagship's bridge. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, both ships were gone. But Rick Stone's sacrifice had worked. The Kethmori flagship was destroyed, and their fleet began to fall apart. Without their leader's coordination, the enemy ships started retreating in different directions. "All ships, pursue and destroy," Jake ordered. "Do not let any of them escape to report our new tactics." The battle lasted 3 more hours. It was over. The entire Kethmori fleet was either destroyed or captured. But Earth had paid a heavy price. 3 of the 8 human ships were lost. Hundreds of brave sailors had died. As Jake looked at the wreckage floating in space, he thought about Commander Stone and all the others who had given their lives. But their sacrifice had achieved something important. For the first time since the war began, humanity had won a major victory against the Kethmori. The message would spread throughout the galaxy. Earth could fight back, and the ancient enemy could be defeated. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Arcturus. Captain Jake Miller, now promoted to admiral, stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution as it led a massive fleet through space. Behind him followed 300 human warships, along with vessels from the Vorthok Empire and the Zanari Collective. Alliance that had started with peace talks at Kepler Station had grown into the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen. But Jake knew they would need every ship for what was coming next. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Amy Ross from her communication station, "long-range sensors are detecting the Kethmori home system. It is heavily defended." Jake studied the sensor. Readings on the main screen. The enemy had built massive weapons platforms around their capital world. Thousands of ships patrolled the system's borders. At the center of it all was a space station larger than most moons. Dr. Ben Carter, now promoted to science director, walked onto the bridge, carrying his tablet. "Jake, I have been analyzing intelligence reports from our captured prisoners. Kethmori have built something they call the Star Killer." "What does it do?" Jake asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. "It is a weapon capable of destroying entire star systems," Ben explained. "They plan to use it on Earth's sun. Without the sun, our planet will freeze solid in days." Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. Even if they won every battle, even if they defeated every Kethmori fleet, it would mean nothing if the enemy could destroy Earth itself. "How long before they can use this weapon?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Dan Wright, now Major Wright and head of Fleet Intelligence, answered from his station. "According to our spies, the Star Killer will be ready to fire in less than 48 hours. We have to stop them now." Jake opened a communication channel to all the ships in the fleet. War Leader Groth's scarred face appeared on one screen, while Speaker Veltar's blue features showed on another. These 2 former enemies had become Jake's closest allies in the war against the Kethmori. "My friends," Jake said, "this is our final chance. If we fail here, Earth dies, and the galaxy falls under Kethmori rule forever." War Leader Groth showed his teeth in what humans had learned was a Vorthok battle smile. "My warriors are ready, Admiral Jake. We will fight until the last breath leaves our bodies." Speaker Veltar nodded gracefully. "The Zanari fleet stands with Earth. Our scientists have prepared special weapons for this battle." Jake was grateful for their support, but he knew the responsibility for this attack rested on his shoulders. Earth had become the leader of the Alliance because humans had proven they could adapt and fight when necessary. "All ships, begin the attack," Jake ordered. "We go back to Kepler Station and finish our peace talks," Jake said. "But this time, we are not just talking about ending your war. We are talking about forming an alliance to defend all our worlds." For the next 3 days, the peace talks took on a completely different tone. Instead of arguing about territory and resources, the Vorthok and Zanari worked together to plan their defense against the Kethmori threat. Dr. Ben spent his time studying all the data they had collected about the enemy ships. "Their weakness is kinetic weapons," he told the assembled delegates. "Energy-based attacks just feed their power systems. But solid projectiles can damage them." War Leader Groth was excited by this news. "The Vorthok have always preferred physical weapons. Our railguns and missile systems are among the best in the galaxy. And the Zanari have the most advanced manufacturing systems," Veltar added. "Can produce kinetic weapons quickly and in large numbers." Jake felt hope growing in his chest. Maybe they could win this war after all. But his hope faded when Amy received an emergency message from Earth. Her face went white as she read it. "Captain," she said in a shaky voice. "Earth Command reports that 7 major worlds have gone silent. The core worlds are under attack." The room fell into shocked silence. The core worlds were the heart of galactic civilization. Billions of people lived there. If the Kethmori had attacked them all at once, the casualties would be beyond counting.
Ow!
"Many ships do they have?" Groth asked. Amy continued reading the message. "Unknown. The attacks came from multiple directions simultaneously. Our deep space sensors detected at least 50 large vessels, but there could be many more." Jake realized that their small victory against one Kethmori ship meant nothing. The enemy had been preparing for this war for 3,000 years. They had ships, weapons, and technology that the younger races could barely understand. "We need to get back to our home worlds," Veltar said. "Our people will need protection." "No," Jake said firmly. "If we split up now, they will destroy us. One by one, we need to stay together and form a real alliance, which is the only way we can survive." War Leader Grath nodded slowly. "The human speaks truth. Divided, we are weak. United, we might be strong enough to fight." As the delegates worked to finalize their alliance, Jake stared out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Kethmori fleets were moving toward inhabited worlds. Billions of innocent people were depending on them to find a way to stop an enemy that had been planning this attack for thousands of years. Jake thought about Lisa Stone and the crews of the destroyed ships. They had died trying to keep peace in the galaxy. Now it was up to the survivors to make sure their sacrifice meant something. The war for the survival of all the younger races had begun. The trip back to Earth took 5 days. Jake Miller stood on the bridge of the Harmony, watching his home planet grow larger on the screen. But something was wrong. Instead of the usual peaceful blue and green world, Earth was surrounded by thousands of ships and giant metal platforms floating in space. "Amy, what are all those structures around Earth?" Jake asked. Amy worked at her sensors for a few minutes. "Captain, they look like weapons platforms, huge railgun batteries and missile launchers. There are also manufacturing stations building new ships." Dr. Ben studied the information on his tablet. "Jake, according to these readings, Earth has built more military hardware in the past month than we produced in the previous 10 years. How is that possible?" Before Jake could answer, Admiral Kate Johnson's face appeared on the main screen. But she looked different now. Instead of her usual diplomatic uniform, she wore military combat gear. Her eyes were hard and determined.
"Jake."
"Welcome home," the Admiral said. "Report to Earth Command immediately. We have a lot of work to do." An hour later, Jake and his crew sat in a large meeting room deep underground. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps and battle. Reports Admiral Johnson sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by other military officers that Jake did not recognize. "Ladies and gentlemen," the Admiral began, "Earth is now at war. The Kethmori have attacked 17 worlds in the past week. 8 of them have gone completely silent. We estimate that over 3 billion people are dead or captured." Jake felt sick to his stomach. 3 billion people was more than half the population of Earth. "What are we doing to stop them?" he asked. A tall man with graying hair stood up. "I am General Paul Green, and I am in charge of Earth's new military production. We have activated Protocol Omega." Dr. Ben looked confused. "What is Protocol Omega?" General Green smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Protocol Omega is a plan we developed 200 years ago when humans first went into space. We were afraid we might meet hostile aliens, so we designed a way to turn Earth into a war machine very quickly. The general touched a control panel. The screens around the room showed images of huge factories being built underground. Thousands of workers and robots moved like ants, building weapons and ships at incredible speed. In the past month, we have constructed 47 new shipyards, 32 weapon manufacturing plants, and 15 research facilities, General Green continued. We are producing 1 new warship every 6 hours. Jake was amazed. "How did you build so much so fast?" "We had the plans ready for over 2 centuries, Admiral Johnson explained. Every major city on Earth has underground facilities that could be converted to military production. We just never thought we would need to use them. Another officer stood up. She was a woman with short black hair and burn scars on her hands. I am Commander Nina Ward. I have been testing our new ships against captured Kethmori technology. The results are promising. Images appeared on the screens showing Earth's new warships. They looked nothing like the old diplomatic vessels. Ships were covered in armor plating and bristled with weapons. Instead of smooth, elegant lines, they were blocky and functional. We call them Hammer-class battleships, Commander Ward explained. They have no energy weapons at all. Everything is kinetic. Railguns, missile launchers, and even ramming spikes for close combat. Dr. Ben studied the ship designs. These look very primitive compared to our old ships. That is the point, General Green said. The Kethmori can drain energy from advanced systems, but they cannot stop a solid piece of metal moving at high speed. Sometimes simple solutions work best. Admiral Johnson activated another screen. Jake, we want you to command one of the new ships. The EU's Retribution is our most advanced Hammer-class vessel. Your experience fighting the Kethmori makes you the perfect captain for her. Jake felt honored, but also worried. Admiral, I am not a military commander. I am a diplomat. Not anymore, the Admiral replied. The time for diplomacy is over. Now we fight. Over the next 3 weeks, Jake trained with his new crew on the Retribution. The ship was completely different from the Harmony. Instead of comfortable meeting rooms, it had armor-plated corridors and weapon storage areas. The bridge was designed for combat. With thick metal shields that could protect the crew from enemy fire, Amy Ross and Dr. Ben Carter joined Jake on the new ship, along with Ryan Davis as chief engineer. But they also had new crew members who were trained soldiers instead of diplomats. Lieutenant Don Wright was the ship's intelligence officer. He was young, but had spent years studying alien military tactics. Sergeant Lisa Park was in charge of the ship's Marine unit, soldiers who would board enemy ships and fight hand-to-hand if necessary. Captain Ryan said one day while they were testing the ship's systems, "These new engines are amazing. They are completely mechanical, no energy fields or computer controls that the Kethmori can interfere with." Jake nodded.
How fast can we go?
I am trying, Captain, but that energy-draining field is getting stronger. Our shields are at only 30% power. Jake made a decision that might save his crew or might kill them all. Amy, record a message for Earth. Tell them everything. We learned about the Kethmori, put it in a probe, and launch it toward Earth space. But Captain, the probe might not make it past their jamming field, Amy said. We have to try, Jake replied. It might be the only warning Earth gets. Amy worked quickly to prepare the message probe. Meanwhile, the Kethmori ship finished charging its weapons. Jake could see them beginning to glow with deadly energy. Launched, Amy reported. Just then the alien ship fired. Beams of red energy hit the Harmony's shields and drained them completely in seconds. The ship shook violently, and several control panels exploded in showers of sparks. Ryan report on Deck 3, Ryan reported. Emergency force fields are holding, but barely. Jake knew they could not survive another attack like that, but then something unexpected happened. Several new ships appeared on the sensor screen. They were Vorthok and Zanari vessels, and they were moving toward the battle. Amy looked, confused. Captain, I'm getting a message from War Leader Growth. He says they detected the energy weapons fire and came to investigate. Jake smiled for the first time in hours. Maybe, just maybe, they had a chance to survive and warn the galaxy about the real enemy. War Leader Groth's voice boomed over the communication system. Human Captain, we detected weapons fire. What enemy attacks you? Jake looked at the sensor screen and saw 3 Vorthok warships approaching fast. Behind them came 2 Zanari vessels, their hulls shining with blue energy fields. For the first time since finding the Kethmori ship, Jake felt hope. Growth, there is an enemy ship using cloaking technology, Jake said quickly. They are the ones who destroyed our 3 ships. They want us to blame each other, so we will fight while they take over the galaxy. The Kethmori ship turned toward the new arrivals. Jake could see its weapons charging again, this time with even more energy than before. "I cannot see this enemy," Groth replied. "Your ship appears to be alone." Dr. Ben worked frantically at his station. "Captain, I am sending our sensor data to their ships. Maybe their computers can track the cloaked vessel." Suddenly, the Kethmori ship fired at the largest Vorthok warship. Da-da-da. Red beams of energy hit its shields and drained them instantly. Ah-da-da. Vorthok's ship shook under the attack, and several of its weapons stopped working. "Now I see them," Grath roared with anger. Warriors attacked the invisible coward. The Vorthok ships opened fire with everything they had. Blue energy bolts and explosive missiles filled the space around the Kethmori vessel. But most of the weapons passed right through empty space. The alien ship was too well hidden. Speaker. Veltar's voice came from the Zanari ships. "The enemy is using energy manipulation technology.
Ow.
Our sensors can track the disturbances they create in space." The Zanari vessels fired thin beams of white light that followed the invisible ship wherever it moved. Their weapons could not penetrate the Kethmori shields, but they could show everyone where the enemy was hiding. "Target the area marked by the Zanari beams," Jake told the Vorthok ships. "Fire everything you have at those coordinates." Fire from all the ships finally started hitting the Kethmori vessel. Its cloaking field flickered and failed, revealing the full horror of the ancient warship. It was huge, easily 3 times larger than any of their ships. Strange organic-looking weapons covered its surface, and parts of it seemed to be alive. But the enemy ship was tough. Even with all their weapons hitting it, the alien vessel kept fighting. Its energy-draining beams reached out and touched each attacking ship, making their shields weaker and their weapons slower to fire. "We cannot win this fight," Veltar said over the communication channel. "Their technology is too advanced. We need to retreat and warn our governments." Jake knew she was right, but he also knew something else. If we run now, they will follow us back to our worlds. We have to damage them enough to slow them down. War leader Groth laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "The human speaks wisdom. Better to die fighting than to run like frightened children." The battle continued for 20 more minutes. The Kethmori ship destroyed one of the Vorthok vessels completely, and another was so damaged it could barely move. The Zanari ships were faster and avoided most of the damage. But their weapons were almost useless against the enemy's shields. The Harmony was hit twice more. Ryan reported that the engines were failing and the life support systems were damaged. Jake knew his ship would not last much longer. Then Amy made an important discovery. "Captain, I have been studying their energy-draining weapon. It has to recharge after each use. There is a gap of about 30 seconds between attacks." Jake saw their chance. "All ships, listen carefully. When their draining beam stops, we have 30 seconds to hit them with everything we have. Focus all fire on the same spot. The next time the Kethmori weapons stopped to recharge, all the remaining ships fired at once. Dozens of energy beams and missiles hit the same section of the alien ship's hull. For a moment, Jake thought they had finally heard it, but the enemy ship was stronger than they had hoped. The concentrated attack only made a small hole in its armor. The Kethmori vessel turned and fired its most powerful weapon directly at the Harmony. "Brace for impact," Jake shouted. The energy beam hit the Harmony's weakened hull and tore through 3 decks. Emergency alarms screamed throughout the ship. Several crew members were injured, and the main computer systems failed. Captain Ryan's. The voice came from the engine room, and he sounded badly hurt. "The engines are dead. We are drifting without power." Jake realized they were going to die. Kethmori's ship was turning toward them for the killing blow. But then something unexpected happened. Amy's emergency probe, the one carrying their message to Earth, suddenly exploded in a bright flash of light. But it was not an explosion, it was a signal. The probe had made it far enough to contact an Earth patrol ship. "Captain," Amy said with excitement in her voice. "I am detecting human ships approaching fast. It looks like a full battle fleet." On the sensor screen, Jake could see dozens of ships coming out of hyperspace. They were Earth's newest warships, led by Admiral Chris Brooks in the battleship U.S. Thunder. Jake had never been so happy to see the Earth flag. but his happiness faded quickly when he saw what happened next. The Earth ships fired their most powerful weapons at the Kethmori vessel. Energy beams that could destroy entire asteroids hit the alien ship directly. Attacks did almost nothing. Admiral Brooks's voice came over the communication system. All ships, be advised that enemy vessel is immune to energy weapons. Repeat, energy weapons are not effective. Jake watched in horror as the Kethmori ship turned toward the Earth fleet. Its energy-draining beams reached out and touched ship after ship. Within minutes, half of the human fleet was drifting helplessly in space. Admiral Jake said over the communication channel. Only kinetic weapons work against them. Physical missiles and solid projectiles. Understood, Admiral Brooks replied. All ships switch to kinetic weapons only, railguns and physical missiles. The Earth ships changed their attack pattern. Instead of energy beams, they fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The railgun rounds punched through the Kethmori shields and actually damaged the alien ship's hull. The enemy vessel began to retreat, but not before sending a message to all the ships. The same skeletal face appeared on every screen. It's red, eyes glowing with hatred. Young races, the Kethmori spoke. You have won this small battle, but the war has only begun. We have fleets hidden throughout the galaxy. Your worlds will burn, and your peoples will serve us as slaves. The Kethmori Empire rises again. The alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, leaving the damaged human, Vorthok, and Zanari vessels behind. Admiral Brooks's ship moved close to the Harmony. Captain Miller, prepare for medical evacuation. We are sending doctors to help your wounded crew. As the rescue teams worked, Jake met with War Leader Groth and Speaker Veltar through video communication. Both alien leaders looked shaken by what they had seen. The humans were right, Groth admitted. We were tricked into blaming each other. The real enemy was hiding in the shadows. Veltar nodded her blue head slowly. The Kethmori technology is far beyond anything we have. If they truly have fleets hidden throughout the galaxy, we are all in great danger. Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. We need to work together now more than ever. Alone, none of our races can defeat them. But together, we might have a chance. What do you propose?
Ows!
Jake Miller could not sleep. He'd been lying in his small bed for 3 hours, but his mind would not stop thinking about the destroyed ships. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lisa Stone's face. She had taught him how to command a ship. Now she was gone. A soft beep came from his communication device. Jake sat up and pressed the button. Captain, this is Amy. Sorry to wake you, but Earth Command wants to talk to you right away. Jake got dressed quickly and walked to the bridge. Amy was sitting at her station with a worried look on her face. The main screen showed Admiral Kate Johnson, the head of Earth's space fleet. She was an older woman with gray hair and hard eyes. Jake, the Admiral said, I am ordering all human diplomatic ships to return to Earth space immediately. It is not safe for you to be out there. Admiral, if we leave now, the Vorthok and Zanari will go back to war, Jake said. They already blame each other for attacking our ships. Someone is trying to trick them. That is not our problem anymore, Admiral Johnson replied. 3 of our ships are gone. We cannot risk losing more. Jake thought for a moment. Give me 3 days. Let me find out who really attacked our ships. If I can prove it was not the Vorthok or Zanari, maybe we can still save the peace. The Admiral was quiet for a long time. Finally, she nodded. 3 days, Jake. But if you find any sign of danger, you run. That is an order. After the Admiral's image disappeared, Dr. Ben Carter walked onto the bridge. He was carrying his tablet and looked excited. Jake, I found something strange, Ben said. I have been studying the attack reports from our 3 ships. The weapons that hit them were very powerful, but they left almost no damage to certain parts of the ships. What do you mean? Jake asked. Ben touched his tablet and showed Jake some pictures. Look at these photos from the wreckage. The enemy weapons destroyed the engines and the bridge, but they barely touched the communication equipment and the data storage. Amy looked up from her station. That is weird. If someone wanted to destroy the ships completely, they would hit everything. Exactly, Ben said.
And it is.
Like the attackers wanted to leave evidence behind. They wanted someone to find the wreckage and see what weapons were used. Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. You think someone is trying to frame the Vorthok? And Zanari. Yes, Ben said. And I think I know how to prove it. Ryan Davis's voice came over the communication system from the engine room. Captain, I am reading some strange energy signals near the wreckage of the Providence. Should we go take a look? Jake made his decision quickly. Set course for the Providence wreckage, but keep our weapons ready, just in case.
The Harmony?
Left Kepler Station and traveled for 6 hours to reach the place where Lisa Stone's ship had been destroyed. When they arrived, Jake could see pieces of metal floating in space. The Providence had been torn apart. Take us closer, Jake told Amy, but go slowly. As they moved toward the wreckage, Ryan found something interesting. Captain, I am picking up tiny pieces of metal that do not match anything in our computer files. This metal is not from our ship, and it is not from any Vorthok or Zanari weapons I know about. Dr. Ben studied the metal pieces through the ship's sensors. This is very old technology, he said. Much older than anything the Vorthok or Zanari have, but it is also very advanced. Amy was listening to radio signals in the area. Suddenly, she looked excited. Captain, I am picking up a weak signal. Sounds like a message, but it is in a language our computers do not recognize. Can you trace where it is coming from? Jake asked. Amy worked at her controls for several minutes. Yes, but it is strange. The signal is coming from empty space about 2 million kilometers from here. There should be nothing there. Jake felt his heart beat faster. That is where the attackers might be hiding. Ryan, can we get there without being detected? I can. Turn off most of our systems and drift there quietly, Ryan said. But it will take several hours, and we will not be able to use our weapons or shields. It was dangerous, but Jake knew they had to take the risk. Do it for the next 4 hours. The Harmony drifted through space like a dead ship. All the lights were turned off except for the most important ones. The crew worked quietly and spoke in whispers. When they got close to where the signal was coming from, Amy used the ship's most sensitive sensors to look around. For a long time, she saw nothing. Then she found something that made her gasp. Captain, there is a ship out there, she whispered, but I can barely see it. It has some kind of cloaking technology that makes it almost invisible. Jake looked at the sensor screen and could just barely see a strange shape. It was long and thin, unlike any ship he had ever seen before. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. Ben, do you recognize those symbols? Jake asked. Ben studied the pictures carefully. Then his face went white.
Old.
Jake, I think those symbols are very old. They look like writing from a race called the Kethmori, but they are supposed to be extinct. They died out thousands of years ago. Maybe they are not as extinct as everyone thought, Jake said. Amy was listening to more radio signals. Captain, I am picking up communications from that ship. Our computers are trying to translate them, but it is taking time. After a few minutes, the computer finished working on the alien language. Words appeared on the screen, and Amy read them out loud. The human peacekeepers are the greatest threat to our return, she read. They stop wars and make the younger. Races work together. We must destroy them before we can reclaim what is ours. Jake felt anger building in his chest. These aliens, whoever they were, had killed Lisa Stone and the crews of 3 ships just to start a war. The alien message continued. Phase 1 is complete. The humans have been blamed for the attacks. Now the Vorthok and Zanari will fight each other instead of looking for the real enemy. Soon, all the young races will be weak from war, and we can take control of the galaxy again. Ben was reading more information about the Kethmori on his tablet. Jake, according to these old records, the Kethmori used to rule the entire galaxy. They were overthrown by an alliance of younger races about 3,000 years ago. Everyone thought they were all dead, but some of them survived, Jake said, and now they want their empire back. Amy looked scared. Captain, what do we do? If they have been planning this for thousands of years, they must be very powerful. Before Jake could answer, Alarms started going off all over the ship. Orion's voice came from the engine room, and he sounded frightened. "Captain, that alien ship just turned toward us. I think they know we are here." On the sensor screen, Jake could see the strange ship moving toward them. It was still mostly invisible, but now he could see energy building up around its weapons. "Amy, send an emergency message to Earth Command," Jake ordered. "What about the Kethmori and what we found? Send everything we recorded." "I am trying," Amy said, "but something is blocking our communications. We cannot send any messages." The alien ship was getting closer. Jake could see more details now. It was covered in weapons that looked like nothing he had ever seen before. The ship itself seemed to be made of some kind of living metal that moved and changed shape. "Ryan, give me full power to engines," Jake said. "We need to get out of here." "I am trying, Captain, but our engines are not responding properly. Something is draining our power." Jake realized they were in serious trouble. The Kethmori ship had some kind of weapon that could steal energy from other ships. The harmony was becoming weaker every second. "All crew to emergency stations," Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "Prepare for combat." Jake knew they were not ready for this kind of fight. The harmony was built for peace talks, not for battle. Their weapons were small and meant only for defense against pirates or asteroids. The Kethmori ship was now very close. Jake could see strange lights moving under its surface. It looked alive, like a giant space creature instead of a machine. "Captain," Amy said in a shaky voice, "I am getting a message from them. They want to talk." Jake was surprised. Put it on the main screen. The image that appeared was frightening. The Kethmori looked like skeletons covered in metal armor. Their eyes glowed with red light, and when they spoke, their voices sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Human Captain," the alien said, "you have seen too much. You and your crew will die now, but first you will watch as we destroy your pathetic planet." Jake felt rage fill his heart. "Why are you doing this? Humans have never done anything to hurt you." The Kethmori laughed, and the sound made everyone on the bridge feel sick. "You exist. That is enough. Your kind makes peace where there should be war. You unite the galaxy where there should be division. You must be eliminated. We will stop you," Jake said, even though he knew they probably could not. "You will try," the alien replied. "But we have been planning this for 3,000 years. We know how to defeat every weapon, every defense, every trick that the younger races have learned. Your Earth will burn, and the galaxy will be ours again." The communication ended, and the Kethmori ship began charging its weapons. Jake could see energy building up in several places along its hull. "Ryan, emergency power 2 shields," Jake ordered. Captain Jake Miller stood on the bridge of the U's Harmony, watching the stars through the large window. The ship moved slowly through space toward Kepler Station. Jake had been to this place many times before. It was where different alien races came to talk about peace instead of fighting wars. The station looked like a giant metal wheel spinning in the darkness. Thousands of lights dotted its surface. Ships from many worlds were docked there. Some looked like long silver needles. Others were round like balls. Each one belonged to a different alien race. "Captain, we are getting close to the station," said Lieutenant Amy Ross from her seat at the communications desk. She was young, with short brown hair, and always spoke clearly. "They want us to dock at Port 7. "Thank you, Amy," Jake said. He was 42 years old and had spent 20 years in space. His brown hair was starting to turn gray at the sides. "Take us in slowly. We do not want to scare anyone." The Harmony was Earth's newest diplomatic ship. It was built for peace. Talks, not for fighting. The ship had comfortable meeting rooms, translation machines, and the best communication equipment that humans could make. Jake was proud to command it. Dr. Ben Carter walked onto the bridge carrying a tablet computer. He was the ship's expert on alien cultures. Ben was thin and tall, with glasses that he always pushed up his nose when he was thinking hard. "Jake, I have been reading about the 2 groups we are going to help," Ben said. "The Vorthok Empire and the Zanari Collective have been fighting for 50 years. They both want the same star systems." "What are they like?" Jake asked. Ben touched his tablet, and pictures appeared on the main screen. The first showed large, muscular creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. They wore metal armor and carried big weapons. The Vorthok warriors, Ben explained. They believe that the strongest should rule. They respect courage and honor in battle. Well, but they also keep their word when they make promises. The picture changed to show tall, thin beings with blue skin and large black eyes. They wore flowing robes that seemed to shine with their own light. The Zanari are very smart, Ben continued. They make the best computers and machines in the galaxy. They think problems through very carefully before acting. They do not like violence, but they will fight if they have to. Amy looked up from her station. Captain, the station is asking us to hurry. The peace talks are supposed to start in 2 hours. Jake nodded. Dock us quickly but safely. The Harmony moved toward the spinning station. Jake could see the docking port getting bigger as they got closer. Small lights guided them to the right place. With a gentle bump, the ship connected to the station. Perfect landing, said Chief Engineer Ryan Davis over the communication system. Ryan was down in the engine room making sure everything worked right. He was Jake's oldest friend and the best engineer in the human fleet. Jake and his team walked through the airlock into Kepler Station. The main corridor was huge, with the ceiling so high that Jake could barely see the top. Aliens of many different types walked back and forth. Some had fur, others had scales. A few looked almost like humans, but with strange colored skin. The air smelled different here. It was clean but had a metallic taste. The station's computers mixed different types of air so that all the alien races could breathe safely. It's this way. To the meeting room, said a voice. Jake turned to see a station worker walking toward them. She was human, with red hair and a friendly smile. I am Helen Clark, the station director. We are so glad Earth sent the Harmony to help with these talks. Thank you, Jake said. How are the Vorthok and Zanari getting along so far? Helen's smile faded a little. They are being polite, but you can feel the tension. Neither side trusts the other. They both blame each other for starting this war. They walked through several corridors until they reached a large round room with a table in the center. Their gray skin looked like stone, and their 4 arms were crossed over their chests. They wore simple, but strong-looking armor. On the other side sat 3 Zanari diplomats. They moved gracefully, and their blue skin seemed to glow softly in the room's light. Their large black eyes watched everything carefully. Greetings, Jake said as he entered the room. I am Captain Jake Miller from Earth. We are here to help you find peace. The largest Vorthok stood up. He was almost 8 feet tall, and his voice was deep and loud. I am War Leader Growth. We want peace, but only if the Zanari stop taking our worlds. One of the Zanari also stood. She was tall and moved like water flowing. Her voice was soft but clear. I am Speaker Veltar. The Vorthok attack our colonies and steal our technology. We only defend ourselves. Jake had heard this same argument many times before from other races. Each side believed they were right. Each side thought the other started the fighting. Please, sit down, Jake said calmly. We are not here to decide who is right or wrong. We are here to find a way for both your peoples to live in peace. For the next hour, Jake listened as both sides told their stories. The Vorthok said the Zanari had built colonies in space that belonged to the Vorthok Empire. The Zanari said those worlds were empty when they found them. Amy sat at a small table nearby, recording everything that was said. Dr. Ben watched both groups carefully, looking for small signs that might tell him what they were really thinking. The talks went better than Jake had hoped. Both sides seemed willing to compromise. The Vorthok offered to share some of the disputed worlds. The Zanari agreed to give the Vorthok some of their older technology. This is good progress, Jake told Helen during a break. Maybe we can have a peace agreement in a few days. But Ben looked worried. He walked over to Jake and spoke quietly. Something is not right. The Vorthok are being too friendly. In their culture, warriors do not give up territory easily, and the Zanari keep looking at their communication devices like they are expecting bad news. Before Jake could answer, Amy's communication equipment started beeping loudly. She pressed a button, and her face went white. Captain, she said in a shaky voice. I am getting emergency signals from 3 human ships. They are under attack. Room went silent. Everyone stared at Amy as she listened to the signals coming through her equipment. The UES Providence, the US Friendship, and the US Hope are all reporting enemy ships, Amy continued. The attackers are using weapons we have never seen before. Captain Stone from the Providence says they came out of nowhere. Jake felt cold. Fear in his stomach. Lisa Stone was his old teacher and friend. She was one of the best ship captains in the human fleet. Are they asking for help? Chick asked. Amy listened for a few more seconds. Then her equipment went quiet. The signals stopped. She whispered, "All 3 ships have stopped transmitting." War Leader Groth jumped to his feet. His forearms reached for weapons that were not there. "The Zanari have destroyed your ships," he roared. "This is their trick to blame us." Speaker Veltar also stood up, her black eyes flashing with anger. "We would never attack Earth ships. Vorthok must have done this to make us look guilty." Jake held up his hands. "Please, we do not know what happened yet. Let us not blame each other until we have facts." But it was too late. The Vorthok delegation stomped out of the room, their heavy boots making loud noises on the metal floor. The Zanari followed, their robes flowing behind them like water. Jake sat down heavily in his chair. Years of work to bring peace between. These 2 races had just been destroyed in minutes. Worse, 3 human ships were gone, probably with all their crews. "Amy, try to contact Earth Command," Jake said. "Tell them what happened. And see if you can find any other ships in those areas." As Amy worked at her equipment, Jake stared out the room's window at the stars. Psh. Somewhere out there, someone had attacked Earth's peacekeeping ships. Someone wanted the Vorthok and Zanari to blame each other instead of looking for the real enemy. But who would want to start a war? And why attack the humans who were trying to stop it? Jake had a feeling that this was just the beginning of something much worse.